All right, if you're a business owner, I want to talk about consistency a little bit here this morning. It is currently 8:06 a.m. I've been to the gym here this morning. Got around, came home, got ready, ate some breakfast, spent some time with my wife and our little baby girl. And as I'm sitting down to record this video today, the thing that has been sitting on my mind a lot recently is the idea of consistency and why it is so difficult to be consistent. All right, we all know that consistency, like if you're a business owner, like you know that you have like a self-improvement kind of mindset. You're a person who doesn't just settle for the norm. Like you already know that, hey, like you need to be consistent, that everything that you want is on the other side of a certain volume of work that's going to need to be done. It's on the other side of a certain amount of time that's going to have to elapse. Like you can't just do something once, you have to do it consistently for the long haul. And yet what I run into is like none of that's new to you, right? Like I feel like a lot of the content out there, a lot of stuff that people talk about all the time is just like, hey, like you got to be consistent. It's like, yeah, like, when you were a beginner, like that was probably like useful and helpful and like motivating and encouraging. But what do you do when you're 3 years into growing your business, you're 5 years into growing your business, you're 10 years into growing your business, and things are starting to get a little bit dull. Things are maybe starting to get a little bit boring. Enough time has elapsed where you've seen different strategies come and go. You've seen things, especially if you're in the online space. I primarily work with online fitness coaches, right? So I got started all the way back in 2016 as an online fitness coach. That business eventually grew into a gym, and now I'm also a business coach. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. So for the last 10 years, my business, I've been in many different like roles and positions, and I've had different programs and different businesses. And the one thing that I've always seen recur and happen over and over and over again is that things are always changing, right? Things are always evolving. And that can be really difficult when it comes to the conversation of consistency, because it's like you can find, a good rhythm and a good flow, and you can be, following a certain strategy for growing your business, or however it is, like whatever problem it is that you're trying to solve, whatever bottleneck you're currently trying to solve in your business, like there's a certain strategy that works, and then over time it kind of stops working, and so then it's always like, okay, cool, like what's the next big thing, right? So I'll give you an example. Primarily, one of the biggest issues that I help people with nowadays is helping them with their lead generation, client acquisition, their offers, and just actually growing and scaling their business. And so back in the day, when I first got started as an online fitness coach in 2016, it's like the big thing was literally you just posted some organic content, right? I first started out on Twitter, which is now called X. And, over there, I built a very sizable following very rapidly, very quickly. And, over there it was just like, cool, like all you had to do is just like post content, and people would like reach out to you, and they would want to know more about like, what do you do? And how do you actually help people? And hey, I see you're a fitness coach. Like, do you think you can help me? But then obviously, like as time evolved, like we all know, it's like, cool, like nowadays, like you have to send some DMs, and you have to have some funnels and some processes and things set up. And so then we moved into using email lists, right? And then things evolved once again, and then we started using Facebook groups, and then things evolved once again. And nowadays it's back to like, it's like personal brands. And now we use YouTube channels, and all these different things. And the point that I'm trying to drive home is that things are always changing. And it has brought up this thing that I've personally for myself been really caught in recently. And this is a conversation I've seen happen time and time again for other successful business owners that, number one, that I even work with, and even just like my friends and my network in the industry. There comes this point where we begin to look for like, what is the most optimal strategy? Right? It's super easy to fall into this place where we're looking for, what is the most optimal strategy? How do I optimize spending my time, energy, and effort? And it can feel like this smart, productive thing for us to actually be doing. Because we've learned lessons. Enough time has elapsed where we've seen that like, hey, I used to do this, and then I started to do this, and then I started to do something completely different. And so then we get caught in this place where we're always going like, cool, like, hey, I sent some DMs today, or hey, I posted some content today, and I didn't get the result that I wanted, which must mean that like, hey, this is not working as well anymore. So let me go figure out like, what's the new thing? And it creates this dynamic where if you're not careful, you begin to slip into just chasing shiny objects. Right? As Hormozy calls it, it's like you begin to chase the lady in the red dress, right? And we get into this place, or personally, I'll just say personally, like I've been catching myself in this headspace where I've been looking around for like, what is the most optimal strategy for this certain thing right now? What's the most optimal strategy for generating leads? What's the most optimal offers right now? What's the most optimal like offer structure as far as time length and pricing and what's going to be right, and just on and on and on. What's the most optimal? And where this becomes actually detrimental to you and your business, where this actually begins to work against you, is when the work starts to get hard and the work starts to get difficult. And the real answer is actually consistency. And it's to continue pushing in to the very thing that you're already doing, that you already know works. It's to continue optimizing and getting better at the thing that you're already doing. But instead, we look for something new. We look for something shiny. We carry lessons that we've learned in the past, that some things work for a little while and then they stop working and something new pops up. And we start to tap into that a little bit too often, right? We do something for 2 weeks and it doesn't just pop off, and our business doesn't just explode overnight. And so we go, okay, cool, like this must not be the correct thing to do. So I need to look for a different strategy. Oh, I just got this ad on the timeline. I see this other person has this really cool like client signing engine thing that I'm gonna go sign up and I'm gonna try this thing over here. And then we do it for 2 weeks and we don't again blow up and pop off in 2 weeks. And so we go, okay, cool. Like it must not be that. It's got to be this other thing. This becomes incredibly dangerous when the answer is consistency. This becomes incredibly dangerous when we don't actually take a step back for a moment and ask ourselves, like, is it really that we need to be doing something new? Or is it that the thing that I'm currently doing is not getting me the result I want because number one, maybe I've not done it long enough for it to actually be successful. Or number two, maybe I've not done enough volume of it for it to actually be successful. Or number three, maybe I've just not done it long enough for me to actually be good at it. Or number four, like maybe I've not actually gone back and tried to figure out like why is the strategy I'm currently using not working? Where is my skill deficient? Like where are things like am I even executing the strategy correctly, right? And instead, it's so easy to hop to something new, right? And the unfortunate part about hopping to something new is in itself, it can teach you the wrong lessons. Again, it can also create another problem that pops up, which is that a lot of times when we do something new, we actually do see a growth spurt, right? When you try out a brand new lead generation strategy for the very first time on your existing audience, and it's something brand new, it's shiny, it's novel, you will get 20, 30 people that all of a sudden like raise their hand and go, oh, hey, I'm super interested in this new thing that you're doing. But then after 2 or 3 weeks, that newness and novelty kind of falls off. And now it's like, cool, now it's time to get into the trenches and grind this thing out with some consistency. And we go, oh, hey, like this thing worked and then it stopped working. So I need to go find something else. Then you plug into a different strategy. There's a different cash campaign or you find a different script from somebody and you plug it in. And then suddenly, again, you get those 20 to 30 hits because, again, you brought something new, something novel to your audience. It pops off and you go, oh, cool, like this must be the thing. And you do it for 2 weeks until it begins to decline, right? And I hope you understand. Hopefully I'm doing a good job of communicating the insight and the lesson here that I've seen, because going back to thinking, even back in 2016 to 2021, when I was a fitness coach, when I owned a gym, one of the biggest things that always blew my mind was how so many people could not see big picture in their health and fitness journey and like actually be consistent with things that, in my opinion, were like pretty basic and pretty simple. Right? Like they could not consistently like just not eat the donuts at work, right? They couldn't just consistently like just not go through the McDonald's drive-through and instead just like, buy some hamburger and throw a hamburger on the grill and eat like actual good high quality food, right? And it always blew my mind that people couldn't do that. And then, I got into business coaching and I started working with other business coaches or with other, like other business owners. And it was really weird because I started to see the exact same thing happening inside of this new program, inside this new ideal client that I'm serving, right? And it would be like, well, I can't consistently post content or I can't consistently do my lead generation, my prospecting, my sales activities. And I started to realize, and I even began to see areas in my own life where I was doing the same thing, right? Recently, my wife just gave birth to our first baby girl, right? And throughout the last 6 weeks, my own fitness journey, like I've not gone to the gym really at all in the last 6 weeks. And so recently, earlier this week, it's Thursday. And so this week I've really started back up going to the gym, right? Waking up at 4:30, making it to the gym and going in. And throughout the last week, I've been reminded of how difficult consistency actually can be. It really can be difficult. How difficult it is to actually instill habits, right? When you've not done something for a while or you're not in the correct headspace of like, hey, I understand that I need to do this and I just need to plug into it and I'm just going to have to do this for a long time to get back to where I want to be or to get to the place that I want to be or to reach the goals that I want to reach. Plugging into that headspace, it can be difficult, right? It's not necessarily easy. It's where like, the cliche is like, it's not always easy. It could be simple, but it's not always easy, right? And that cliche, like the reason that's a popular phrase that's thrown around in the, online entrepreneur space is because like, well, it's true, right? It's not always easy. It can be really simple, but that doesn't mean that it's not difficult. But regardless, it's like consistency still is the answer, right? When you look at some of the biggest businesses in the world, they're not businesses that have just blown up over the last 6 to 12 months, right? I guess unless you start to look at like AI, there's a whole bunch of interesting things going over there where stuff is rapidly blowing up. But when you go back and you look at like historically, right? Some of the biggest businesses in the world, I mean, it takes them 20, 30, 40 years to reach the levels that they reach, right? When you look at things like Amazon's, if you look at even like the Teslas, like even just going back and looking at a lot of like the oil companies and the steel companies, you go back and you study Rockefeller, right? You see that like successful people and successful businesses, like they're not just built over 6 and 12 months and 18 and 24 months. They're built over decades, right? They're literally built over decades. And that's not like a decade of just kind of like, hey, we just kind of showed up and kind of just move things forward. It's like, no, it's like decades of every single day, every single week, every single month, every single quarter being tapped into being on the warpath to grow this business. The entrepreneurial space in 2026, and then I'll hop off my soapbox on all of this, all right? But the entrepreneurial space in 2026, we've reached this space where everybody's joining like masterminds and coaching programs and all these sorts of things. And I think that's great. I think that's awesome. I run a business coaching program myself. The issue and the thing that you really have to look out for here is there is now a narrative that has kind of been crafted. I'm starting to see this narrative that really, it's not really spoken out loud, but more so you see it in the way that people act. You see it in their actions. You see it in the ways that they're showing up. There's been this narrative that's created that your business needs to be successful over the next 90 days, right? It needs to be successful over the next 6 months, or else that means that like you're a loser, right? It means like you're not a good business owner. It means that you're not going to make it, right? And it's just not true, right? It's literally just not true. Your business and reaching the levels that you want to reach, sure, you can make a decent amount of progress over the next 12 weeks even. You can make a lot of progress over the next 12 months, right? What's the saying that we often overestimate what we can do in 12 weeks and we underestimate what we can do in 12 months. I've found that to be true just even in my own life and just having coached so many people over the last 10 years. That's absolutely true. That if I saw Hormozi, really where this whole thought kind of comes from here this morning. I was watching a Hormozi reel earlier, and he said, you can build a really big business over, a 5 to 10 year time period. But the issue is that a lot of people are constantly chasing and constantly reliving the exact same month over and over and over for 5 years. In other words, they're constantly experiencing this lack of consistency, a lack of actually plugging in and dialing into a strategy. They're struggling with a lack of even just being focused or just showing up, excited, motivated, engaged in their business. And they're just reliving that same single month over and over and over. They're trying to blow their business up in 30 days. They're trying to go from 3K months to 30K months in 30 days. They're trying to go from 7K months to 100K months in 30 days. And so they're plugging into the wrong strategies when the real answer is that the secret is there is no secret, right? The secret is there is no secret. There is just work to be done. There is a journey. There is growth. There is progress. There is a business and a system and a process that just has to be executed on and has to be executed on a long enough time with enough consistency, with enough volume, with a certain skill level that has to often be improved because we don't just start out at the skill level that's needed to have the business that we want to have. And there is no other way. And so that's really my overarching thought here this morning. And the thing that I've really just been observing and just thinking a lot about recently is if your business has been stuck or plateaued, or maybe it's falling backwards, it's worth sitting down and actually thinking about like, why is that? Is it because that maybe you're executing the wrong strategy? Is it because, or, on the other side of things, like, is it because like you just have not been consistent enough with the strategies that you already have? Because most people think it's because they just don't have the right strategy. And again, that's what leads them to every single month jumping strategies, jumping masterminds, jumping to new mentors, jumping into new business programs, and just jumping from strategy to strategy to strategy to strategy, never actually getting to experience the success that they want. I say it all the time, business and fitness, they're the exact same thing, right? You're not going to get fit like your physique. This is why I love fitness. You will not build the physique you want with anything less than 2, 3, 4 years of training. There's just no way to escape it. And it's not just a mediocre 2, 3, 4 years of training. It's not just like a hit or miss 2, 3, 4 years of training. You have to train, you have to eat, you have to everything. You have to be dialed in and consistent, like you actually mean it for 2, 3, 4 years to actually get the physique that you want. And there's no way to shortcut it. There's literally no way to shortcut it. Business is the exact same. And if you can understand that, I think there's a whole lot of business owners that would be a lot more happy, a lot more wealthier, and would be experiencing a lot more success, the success that they actually want to be experiencing. So that's my thought. Happy Thursday here. Hopefully this finds you in good spirits. I'll see you in the next one.